All right, everyone, and we are live. All right. Hey, everyone. We're glad to be here this evening. First of all, Happy New Year's. Merry Christmas to everyone. I hope your Christmas was amazing. Sorry we're running a little bit late, but we're here now. We're going to have a great discussion about what we feel are some of the most defining moments of 2025. Chris, first of all, how are you eager? Are you eager yourself to say goodbye to 2025 to put it in the review mirror? I kind of am.
Yeah, I kind of am to a certain degree. I mean, it hasn't been like the most awful year for me personally, but it has been kind of an up and down year, and I have some important news to share with people at some point in time. But I'm not going to do it right here, right now. But so that kind of makes me look forward to 2026
Mm,
a little bit, and to see how things unfold there. So, I mean, it's always the New Year's always kind of fun because it gives you an opportunity to feel like you're getting a little bit of a fresh start. So, I like that about it.
awesome. I'm looking forward to this as well. Before we get going, I want to say hi to some of our people in the comments already. We have Vinny. How you doing? Glad to have you here. We have A. Perillo. Howdy. He's saying howdy, boys. Great to have you here. And of course, we have the based mother. It's good to have you here, Elena. We're just so excited to have all y'all tonight. Because we're going to be discussing, as I said, a lot of the defining moments that we feel just really shape 2025 and will actually continue to affect our world culturally and politically here in America, and even outside of America. What you say we just jump right into it because I think we just gotta. This was definitely one of my top ones right here. Was obviously the assassination of Charlie Kirk. For me personally, I feel that this was truly a defining moment of 2025 in several ways. I feel it was a defining moment, first of all, because we lost a voice. In my opinion, an amazing voice, a unifying voice. I know a lot of people would disagree with that. However, I would challenge those people to go and look up Charlie Kirk and his words, which we're going to play later, not right now, when it comes to keeping the dialogue going. Charlie Kirk wanted nothing more than Americans to keep communicating, keep talking. He encouraged family members who had had falling outs to reconnect. Even if you don't share the same values, family was important, so you should be connected. When he was assassinated, I remember that day. I was actually at a doctor's appointment. I I was like, what? I actually did see the video of it. I remember the responses after. I remember, I think one of the ways it really defined 2025 and is still resonating and will resonate is how many people celebrated the assassination of a husband and father. That's in regards to the left. I really felt like it really highlighted just how vicious, just how cruel many leftists, and I'm going to clarify here, I'm not talking about moderates, I'm not talking about centrists, center left, I'm talking about those leftists, the pink, blue hair types, even, you know, that the memes are about, right? It really highlighted a vicious nature there. However, on the right, it sparked division. I'm not going to get too deep into all the, conspiracy theories and all that stuff because I'm no. I personally I just want to keep Charlie's mission alive. But on the right, it created this vacuum where people have tried to step up, but I feel so far most of them have failed miserably because you can't really replace a person. That's just not possible. And I feel that too many were trying to do that. I do think we need a voice, but it needs to be a voice that does reflect Charlie Kirk, but doesn't try to be Charlie Kirk. Until that voice comes forward, I think actually on the right we're going to have further division, and I think we're going to struggle a bit to find our legs again. That's a quick ramble from me. So, Chris, would you agree with me? Would you agree that that Charlie Kirk's assassination really, it was a defining moment in 2025 and will resonate for many years.
Yeah, well, this is yeah, I mean the impact of Charlie Kirk is probably going to resonate for quite some time. Um, I don't know that he was really a unifying figure within the conservative movement, though, because he did kind of represent just one aspect of the conservative movement. Those people felt very, I'm sure those people thought that he was unifying because everybody who is the receiving end of who's being appealed to, always feels like, oh, well, they're doing everything so great and blah, blah, blah. Don't get me wrong, Charlie Kirk absolutely did do wonderful things, and I admire the fact that he was able to have constructive dialogues with people who, quite frankly, sometimes come across as absolute idiots. But I don't think that he was necessarily a unifying force. So I don't know that I think that I might disagree that there's a vacuum there. I think that there are still many voices within the conservative movement that are trying to do some of the same things, but just not trying to be him. But unfortunately, we did see some attempts at copycat like behavior there for a little bit, and that was very disappointing to see. But but the main thing is where there might be a vacuum, and I guess that I could agree to some extent, is the outreach to younger people, because that is something that Charlie Kirk was very good at. And at least off of the top of my head, I can't think of anyone who's doing anything like that. I really think, though, that if we can get someone who can appeal to younger people, and quite frankly, I would like, as much as I did like Charlie Kirk, please do not take me the wrong way, if another Charlie Kirk like figure rises among young people, I personally would like to see something slightly different. Charlie Kirk is not my, and never was my first choice of who I wanted to really be the outreach to American youth. But he was very successful at it. And he was very respectful, and I think that's what did make him so appealing to a lot of people, including me, like I said. But some of his rhetoric was more akin to, conservative Christianity, and as we've discussed in our private conversations, there is, while there's obviously nothing wrong with Christianity, Judaism, whatever, but that's not the issue here. The main thing is that that's who he's going to mostly appeal to. So I would like to see someone who has a little bit broader base of a broader base of appeal than him. That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, no,
That's what I'm getting
yeah.
at.
And I get that absolutely. I do warn though in that approach that we don't want to fall. At least I don't want to fall into the leftist uh, belief, which I once did believe, but I certainly don't anymore. That diversity is our strength. No, you can be so open minded that your brain
Oh,
falls
trust
out.
me.
So
Yeah, trust me. That's
I
not what
don't.
I'm talking
I
about. I'm just
don't.
someone.
Yeah.
I'm just seeing someone who might appeal to a broader
Yeah.
base. That's all I'm
Yeah.
really getting at. And not certainly nothing about the
Yeah.
diversity
And let me also
bullshit.
clarify a position when I refer to Charlie Kirk as a unifier, because I still genuinely believe that he was, and I do use that term, is I don't speak of unification as in everyone, holds hands and thinks the exact same way and sings kumbaya. Charlie Kirk was a unifier in the sense that he wanted the nation to come together enough so that our nation would function. That's what he wanted. He wasn't ever Charlie Kirk wasn't a fool. He wasn't ever going to believe that, we were going to be 100% exactly alike. And he's said just as much himself. So I believe he was a unifier and wanting to keep the conversation going and wanting to keep America functioning enough, because once we stop talking, we truly can demonize the others in America. I do want to go to the comments quick because A. Perillo made a comment that, well, his first comment, I'll read both. First one, I'm pulling it up here. Seeing what happened after showed the corruption within the higher levels of the conservative movement. I do agree that it showed him a bit of that. The Jackals immediately started trying to get a piece of what Kirk built. That absolutely did take place. Now all right, Abe Hurlow's second comment here is I like what Kirk did, and he definitely pulled a lot of people from the left, but he too often took a harsh or mocking tone, which pushed too many away and opened him up to the left's accusations. Now, I want to address that because when Charlie Kirk first started out, he was a lot more impulsive, but in the last couple of years, because I watched his content. I wasn't a fan of him in the beginning, but when I did become a fan, I actually went back to when he first started to where he ended up. And when he first started, he was a lot more impulsive with going at people and being a little bit condescending there. But I feel like that's he was doing this since before he was 18 years old, for crying out loud. But I noticed that as he got older, the only time when he did get a bit more sarcastic and condescending and even mocking would be when people did come directly. Like, I remember this one guy came up to the mic and said to him, I believe he said, "What if you were half into your dad and Trump was half in you?" I think he said, "Which way would you move?" That was the question the guy had for Charlie Kirk. I'm sorry, I'm not going to be sweet as humble. I'm not going to be humble pie in response to that myself when someone asks a question like that. So yes, could Charlie Kirk take on a mocking tone? Absolutely. He did more so when he was younger, but I do feel that was greatly reduced as he got older. But I feel, for the most part, that happens to a lot of us.
Well, and at the very least, if I was Charlie Kirk, or if I were Charlie Kirk, and somebody said a comment to me like that, my response immediately would be, "So, are you describing a sexual act here?" So, anyway, and what I'm saying is talking about someone being into me and into
Well, that's
this.
what the guy meant. That is how the guy meant it. Was, like I said, Charlie Kirk being half into his dad, halfway inserted. I don't want to get too vulgar. And then Trump being halfway inserted into Charlie Kirk, and he asked Charlie Kirk then,
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess I didn't
which
see
way?
this
Yeah,
because
that's what the
I
guy was asking Charlie Kirk. If he was halfway inserted into his dad, and Trump was like halfway inserted into him, what way would Charlie Kirk move to get out? And that was
right.
the question the guy asked Charlie Kirk. And I I think Charlie Kirk having a mocking response or brushing that off is completely appropriate. But
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah, no, no, I get it. I mean, like I said, though, I mean, ultimately, you know, I, I don't think that he's as much of a loss to the conservative movement as a lot of conservatives think he is or was. Because I do think that there are probably better people out there who are going to have much broader appeal than he ever did. Because he appeals to only a certain segment of the conservative movement. And I know this just from talking to people, and so that was, so his appeal was limited. It was, don't get me wrong though,
yeah.
the people had a lot of fervor who backed him, for sure. But that's fine. I mean, but don't get me wrong. Even though I'm saying that he wasn't, in retrospect, is what I am saying. By the way, in retrospect, after having some time to have really thought about this, after his assassination, I was like, yeah, I kind of think that people put too much weight on his importance within the conservative movement. But I will say this though, it's still terrible it happened,
Yeah.
and I'm not trying to diminish that in any sort of way. What was terrible and what was a huge loss is for all the people he did truly inspire, his family, his children, of course. So it's a terrible loss. I'm not minimizing that, but I am just trying to put into context the degree to which this was a loss for conservatism at all.
See, as someone who particularly is very strongly conservative, I actually argue that point because I'm sorry, I have yet to see another conservative reach young people like Charlie Kirk. Not a single. Now, I will agree with you. I do believe. Is there anyone else out there who can do what Charlie Kirk did? I believe that yes, there are people out there. Do I believe many people can do it? No, I do not believe that. Just because I've seen many attempts, and even people who are sweet and well spoken, their skills are not where Charlie Kirk's skills were. Like they have great skills, they do, and they are great at expressing their values and even having conversations at point. But Charlie Kirk had a very unique approach or a very unique skill when it came to that specific college setting. And I honestly would go so far, and mind you, this would take a lot more research, but I do believe that Charlie Kirk delivered a great deal of the votes to Donald Trump. I do. I just absolutely believe that. So I don't believe that he is as replaceable just because I think we'd be looking, if Charlie Kirk had never stepped forward, or he wasn't involved the way he got involved, I think we would be looking at a different political environment, to be honest. And from my perspective, a worse one. But
Well,
I,
and you'll know I didn't actually use the word replaceable.
yeah, no, I
Uh,
know.
and, and the reason I didn't use the word replaceable is because he's not replaceable. That is certainly not the intent
Chris is
of what
going
I'm
cuckoo
saying.
over here. No, I'm just kidding. Oh,
Nah, what I'm getting at is I honestly think that, at least from the conservative perspective, there are probably people out there who can do and will do a much better job than he ever did. But and because of the fact that of what I'm talking about, I would like to see someone with a little bit broader appeal. And remember, I did absolutely agree with you on the sense that if there was any vacuum left, it was definitely among the young people because I
yeah,
can't
you
think of
did.
anyone who's doing. I can't think of anyone who's doing that now. So that vacuum definitely exists. But think about, you could still have someone who is a conservative Christian like him, but at the same time didn't kind of like turn it into, I don't know, a religious revival of some sort, because I've seen some of these Charlie Kirk events, and there were definitely a lot of overtones of that, and I could see that, maybe turning off certain moderate conservatives to even just more mainline conservatives who just don't get into the mixing of religion and politics as
Well,
much. And I'm not saying that it's bad to necessarily do that. That's also not what I'm saying.
yeah.
I'm just saying that I think that someone who will have broader appeal is going to be someone who probably makes a little bit less of a ordeal about their own personal faith beliefs and just talks about the actual issues that we, all can agree on, regardless of what your faith is, from the conservative perspective.
And to be fair, I actually think that Charlie Kirk had many conversations, and I think a review, he had, mind you, it's like thousands of hours at this point, would show that Charlie Kirk had many conversations where his faith, he did not speak of faith, even though he was very clear about his faith. It wasn't his only starting point, right? Many times, Charlie Kirk in his engagements only really spoke to religion because that's what was thrown at him. So he would respond to it by reinforcing his faith,
Excuse me.
which I actually support, because I do full-heartedly believe that every man and woman serves a master, and it is, if it isn't God itself or the devil or something. So I like to know who a man or woman's master is, and at least Charlie Kirk was honest about that.
Oh no, and like I said, I mean, I think that it could still be a conservative Christian who could
Yeah,
pull it off, but I think that it could be done in a way that has broader appeal. I mean, and guys,
yeah,
seriously, don't dig too damn deep into what I'm saying here. It ain't that
yeah.
deep.
I mean, Chris,
Just
you are right in regards to there's always someone out there who's going to have a different type of appeal, and possibly broader appeal, because Charlie Kirk was honest. He was came at his values from a position of faith. I increasingly do that myself, unapologetically so. And in part, the way Charlie Kirk handled things, often very respectfully, in my opinion, gracefully, even though he had his moments, helped inspire me to follow, to look, to follow faith, and to go down that journey. Um, but I do understand what you mean by a broader base, a broader reach. However, again, we do want to be careful. We don't want to get too broad, because once you get too broad, like you said, like I said, if your mind becomes too open, your brain falls out.
I
But
agree with that sentiment for sure.
I think you can agree with this, though, Chris, is that whoever comes up to not replace Charlie Kirk, but to carry on in some form that reflects who Charlie Kirk was, will have to reflect this. And we're about to play the video, my favorite video of Charlie Kirk, everyone, because to me, this embodies who Charlie Kirk really was, and the best of Charlie Kirk, and what we need to continue seeing in this world. So if you want to play that.
Oh, absolutely. And just one last thing, guys. Just understand, I'm just offering some sort of, just kind of like, I don't know, detached assessment of the situation. I don't want you to think I don't like Charlie Kirk. That's not the truth. I liked him very
No,
much.
we know.
Okay.
We know.
So
Yeah.
here we go.
Who are you?
My name is Charlie Kirk, and I love America
Here.
because I love talking with people I disagree with.
What have you done for your country?
Started an organization that's now on 1,000+ campuses to save the greatest culture and country ever to exist.
Your family. Is it necessary?
Well, considering I've been assaulted, followed, stalked, and had things thrown at me, the greatest protection I have is cameras. We record all of it so that we put on the internet so people can see these ideas collide. When people stop talking, that's when you get violence. That's when civil war happens. Because you start to think the other side is so evil and they lose their humanity. Marriages break apart when you stop talking, churches fall apart. And I think what makes this country on the verge of going to a place we don't want it to go right now is we're afraid to go to places like this and have these conversations.
Mhm. And right there, I think, really highlights, honestly, he didn't want us to lose our ability to see the humanity of our fellow man. Charlie
Yeah,
Kirk, that I
and
think that is the one
it's
thing, and
important.
that is, yeah.
No, that's absolutely important, and I'm glad that he said that. And of course, I've seen this video. I mean, I've seen it many times, and I think that it did encapsulate what he tried to accomplish very well. I don't see. Let me put it this way. I'm sure there's someone on the left doing something somewhat similar, but at least certainly not to the degree that Charlie Kirk had did it, and not at all even close to the degree that Charlie Kirk did it. But at least I can't come up with anything off of the top of my mind where someone on the left is actually trying to do what he is doing, or what he did, because they, instead of listening to you, this is the problem with the left. Instead of listening to you, the way that they want to have conversations with you usually is to tell you why you're wrong, and not to really listen to you. In fact, the act of listening to you, all they're doing is collecting information to try to totally poke holes in everything that you have to say.
Mm.
Not saying that people on the right don't do that on a day-to-day basis. Of course they do. But I'm just talking about in a larger context. And it would be nice if I could see someone on the left who's like, we really should engage with people from the right and, really hear them out, talk to them, stay true to what we believe. That's from the left. This just like Charlie Kirk stayed true to what he believed, but he gave other people a voice, and I mean, in a way that was quite profound, and a lot of other people do not do that,
Yeah, and I mean, I agree. I haven't seen anyone on the left really. I think that that's impossible. No, I don't. Oh, yep, right there.
Yeah,
Stop your hand.
I'm going to bring up what Elena said. I mean, seriously, I'm with Elena. That's the thing. I can't think. I mean, I'm sure there's someone on the left doing it, but but I certainly can't think of anyone who would care to do that. And so, I mean, that's what was good, and it's true. I mean, this country could go into such an absolutely amazingly dark place if we suddenly decide to just stop talking to each other.
Mhm.
You know?
And Chris, I know you agree with me here. Everyone, there's a reason. Well, there's many reasons, but there's a big reason why we chose to put Charlie Kirk first. Is because Charlie Kirk kind of from this feeds into a lot of the other moments that we're going to cover tonight. Charlie Kirk was a believer in freedom of speech wholeheartedly. He was unapologetic. Unfortunately, our next two topics, our next two moments, are going to be criticisms of the right. That unfortunately came, and I think Charlie Kirk would be speaking out against this, especially the first one, which of course is Pam Bondi and her special moment. Now I'm gonna read this all to you folks. I gotta get a little bit closer to my screen because it's a bit for me. I need to make these more visible for myself. I need to keep that in mind. I don't have my glasses on when we stream. All right. So, all right. So Pam
Oh, there's a
Bondi.
story behind these, by the way, because I know you guys haven't seen me in glasses before.
So here's a quote from Pam Bondi, Attorney General of the United States, of course. There's free speech, and then there's hate speech. And there is no place, especially now, especially after what happened to Charlie in our society. We will absolutely target you, go after you if you are targeting anyone with hate speech. Now, I want to then read something else because she referenced Charlie. She invoked the name of Charlie Kirk, right? Well, let's see what Charlie Kirk said about hate speech. Below we got from Charlie Kirk, a post X. Hate speech does not exist legally in America. There's ugly speech, there's gross speech, there's evil speech, and all of it is protected by the First Amendment to keep America free. So this is the reason I thought this was a great transition into other messages, because Charlie Kirk would have been so disgusted as by what Pam Bondi said, and unfortunately, we've seen more of this among Republicans and conservatives is a betrayal of the freedoms that we on the right have preached about for so long. So,
Yeah. Well, I mean, here's the thing. I mean, I am very much a free speech absolutist. I mean, you know me. I mean, I'm a libertarian with conservative leanings. And I mean that probably better describes me than really truly calling me a conservative.
yeah.
But so I found what this idiot said was completely uncalled for, and but we kind of got into this last night, Kevin. I mean, and I kind of don't want to go there, but I kind of do.
Touch on things. We are 35 minutes into our show, but we can touch on some things.
Yeah, I'm just saying it's like she represents this authoritarian right in this statement. And that is the whole problem that the ultra conservatives don't see about themselves. And when I'm saying, okay, all right, Elena, I'm gonna go there. All right, here's the deal, kids. Here's the deal, kids. Okay. So there are ultra conservatives, and they may be Christian, they may be Jewish, they may not even believe in a God. It doesn't really matter. But they're super, super freaking conservative. Now, I will say, generally speaking, yeah, there's a lot of them of the Christian persuasion, but it's not only them. So I want to remain fair here. But the thing is there is absolutely an element within the conservative movement that wants to be just as authoritarian as the radical left wants to be. Mm-hmm. And the problem is, and I have seen this in my campaign, the radical left, I mean, they're out there and all that type of stuff, and they put themselves out there, and they're acting, all crazy and loony as we're expecting. But what's a little scarier about the radical right is they kind of seem like normal people, but they love to tell everybody else how to live their lives.
But Chris, I would tell me.
Let me. Yeah, I was going to say, let me finish something here. So here's the thing. These people on the radical right and the radical left are almost one and the same. They'd kill each other, but they're almost one and the same. They're authoritarians, guys. That's what they are. They're authoritarians. Mm-hmm. And authoritarianism comes from the conservative side and the left side, for sure. And this is what I said to Kevin last night. Yeah, thank you, Elena, for exactly saying that. And I know I do need to generally ignore them. But it's the horseshoe theory thing. And I absolutely believe in it. You go far enough right, you go far enough left, you're essentially the same thing. And here's what I said to Kevin last night, guys. So here's the inside information, so to speak. I said that in the end, even though they probably would hate each other because they hate the rest of us so much and they want to control the rest of us, these type of people would probably end up working together if given the right opportunity in order to control us.
Yeah. Let's suppress freedom and then let's come together to suppress freedom, then go from there. So I actually want to bring up a comment quick from A. Perillo, because, all right, so Perillo says, while I disagree with that mentality, to be fair, things have gone so far towards the liberal side that a natural response would be to brute force things back into balance. So we obviously have in politics and the culture what is called the pendulum effect, right? The pendulum swings. Once it swings one way so greatly, it's going to swing back very strongly the other way. And I do believe we are experiencing that as a nation to a degree. However, I do believe that there are more individuals like Pam Bondi among Republicans and conservatives than we realize. The left especially the far left has become very good at exposing itself, right? It's gone so far, it's off its rocker so much that it really can't hide itself anymore. It has trouble hiding itself.
Well, and
However,
not to interrupt you, Kevin, but that's why I said on the right it's so insidious because
yeah.
it's not as obvious.
Well, Chris, and this I do believe wholeheartedly, and I believe Pam right here is a perfect example of that. For those individuals on the right, at least right now, I think eventually the right's gonna have trouble hiding those individuals or hiding itself. Those individuals are gonna have more difficulty hiding, kind of like the left. You mentioned the horseshoe theory. I always like to joke and say they actually are more like a funhouse mirror image of each other. They're
Right.
the same thing but slightly different. They're how they focus is different, the topics, but they're, as you said, they're just as authoritarian. But here's what I've noticed on the right: the Pam Bondi right here, that mentality comes out on the right when a useful tragedy takes place. The left will too. The left will use a tragedy to push a narrative, but the right, you really see these authoritarian types, haters of freedom, such as free speech, expose themselves when a useful tragedy, or in this case, an assassination, takes place. Then you see their true colors. The mask comes off, and I think she thought she was gonna rock this when she went after hate speech. I generally thought she backed down quickly because thank goodness we are still at a point on the right where a lot of conservatives to this kind of thing will be like, whoa, whoa, no, 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 no. We still have that, right? The left has lost its naysayers, a lot of them, right? The left lost those people, but on the right, we still have enough to where we're like, no, 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 no. Just saying.
Well, I think there's some truth to that, but I am going to be a little bit more cynical here, and because of some stuff that you guys will learn in time, you'll understand why I'm being so cynical. But let me put it this way. I think that she thought that well, okay, let me step back a second, let me phrase this a better way. She gave herself away too easily. Because here's the thing: unlike the normal person that I not normal person but the average person that I'm talking about, that's kind of an authoritarian on the right, they're not as obvious. She made it obvious. And you know how she made it obvious? She used the language of the left to do it. So all the true conservatives could pick out exactly what she was representing.
Yeah. And I want to go to a comment here. We've had a few, but this one from Perillo I want to focus on. He goes, at higher political levels, I doubt it's even from a sincerely held desire to bring back conservative values. It's opportunists looking to further their own interests, using people's passion as fuel. And yes, that kind of those kind of motivations are on the right for sure. I'm only going to mention quickly that I do want us to move along because we are covering yet another freedom where the right has lost the page. But first, I just want to say that yes, there are opportunists on each side, and I think you're right, Chris. I think she didn't gauge it well, but there are examples of conservatives who are doing a better job of gauging it, right, Chris? And you and
Mm-hmm.
I have talked about Michael Knowles, for example. I do listen to Michael Knowles just because out of the Daily Wire, Michael Knowles and I would definitely have a conversation there. But I will give him this: he is honest. Like, for example, he refers to freedom of speech. He says no, it's not absolute, and he will reference historical. Right, he will reference historical instances where the freedom of speech and expression was suppressed in America, such as we're talking the Civil War and so on and so forth. So how he describes freedom of speech where it is today among conservatives and Republicans is basically an insertion of libertarianism into conservative ideology, which, to be fair, he's not completely off base with that. However, I prefer that personally. I very much am about freedom of speech, but I think Michael Knowles does it a lot more gracefully than Pam Bondi did. Michael Knowles, well, let me put it this way. He does it in an honest, he does it in, he's honest about it, right? But as you said, he didn't use the language of the left. Pam Bondi used the language of the left, and I think that is what irked a multitude of ears, was once she said hate speech, boom. It was like that, yeah.
Oh no, that's exactly what it was. I put up Elena's comment here that I think that it's a personality problem that can manifest itself in either ideology, and I absolutely agree with that. And quite honestly, I mean, I don't want to give Michael Knowles really any credit. It's just that he's honest about the fact that he's an authoritarian, and he is a Christian fundamentalist authoritarian. That's exactly what he is. And because those are the type of people that love to tell everybody else how to lead their lives. And people like that, they're not real conservatives. I mean, he'll call himself a conservative, I'm sure. But, I think that we need to kind of start drawing the line as conservatives into, it's like, you call yourself a conservative, but you're actually a fucking authoritarian is what you are.
Here's the thing also is we got to highlight and challenge people to see just how pure they are. Like I describe myself as a conservative with libertarian leanings. Why? Because I know that's true. I am conservative with a number of strong libertarian leanings, especially in certain topics. One of those is freedom of speech. I'm very strongly in that regard. However, you need to be honest. Like Michael Knowles is an individual. I think a lot of what he does is partially trolling, although he is being honest. I do believe he's being honest with his views, but he's also partially trolling, right? Because it's clickbait at the end of the day.
That's true. That is true.
So I think there's a part of that with him, but you're right. Let's not focus too much on him. We can have a whole different discussion at some point in the future where we mention on him, because I do want to move us forward, because we're going to go from Michael Knowles to Ben Shapiro and the attack on the Second
I'm perfectly
Amendment.
fine with banning people who suffer from gender dysphoria from purchasing weapons. That seems to me a pretty significant symptom of an underlying mental malaise that could theoretically be a problem in terms.
Okay. Well, can you play that one more time?
Yeah, I'm sorry. That came up a little too fast.
I'm perfectly fine with banning people who suffer from gender dysphoria from purchasing weapons. That seems to me a pretty significant symptom of an underlying mental malaise that could theoretically be a problem in terms of owning firearms.
All right. So, people. All right. So, this right here, when I saw this clip, you can ask Chris. I was like, I was very flustered because this is another area, right? To me, Ben Shapiro is polling a Pam Bondi. The mask is slipping more. He talks about being pro-Second Amendment. And here's why. Because there was a time when I would have agreed that mentally ill people should not own firearms, just like criminal, right? For people who have served time should not own firearms. I wholeheartedly believed this. So I was for gun control to that degree. However, I'm a very pro Second Amendment individual, and I hope to have him on this stream in the future. And he put it this way: if we truly believe that someone is too mentally ill to own a gun, then aren't they too mentally ill to function in society? Shouldn't they be in some asylum somewheres? If we believe that someone is, because they were a criminal, that they are still too dangerous to own a gun, then why are they not still in jail? If we truly believe that someone has something wrong with them to the point where they cannot own a firearm to protect themselves, an adult, right, then why are they being allowed into the general public where they could commit acts of violence in other ways? And this helped shift me so much to where I'm actually disgusted by what Ben Shapiro said here. Now, I believe, yes, transgenderism it's a mental illness, right? It's a mental health crisis here in America. Absolutely.
Sure.
But having a mental health issue, how is that reflective of whether or not you should own a gun? Are you saying someone who's anorexic, someone who has OCD, that the little quirks, that people have even, right? That are a reflection of a mental illness to varying degrees, that none of them should be allowed to own firearms at all. And one other thing, I am disgusted by the notion of punishing people for crimes that they have not committed. We cannot assume that because someone is mentally ill, that if they own a firearm, that someone mentally ill in some fashion, because there are many ways to be mentally ill, that if they own a firearm, they are going to use it to kill someone. Just like we cannot assume that someone who once was in jail for different crimes. I mean, if someone was in jail for, I don't know, tax fraud, right? Why should that restrict, even though, yes, it was wrong, but if they've served their time, and we believe they've served their time, as a society, we've said you've served your time, you've paid your debts to society, and it's like something like tax fraud, for example, they're not allowed to own a gun, especially when their crime had nothing to do with that. I just
Right.
believe, like, if we are telling someone that you have served your time, paid your debts to society, then we bring them into society and treat them still like criminals. Of course, they're going to act like criminals. And if we treat someone who has mental illness issues even more differently in that regard, I think that's going to actually even make that worse for them. Again, when it comes to transgenderism, mental illness, I believe there's treatment that needs to be done. Not obviously not what the left is offering, but I do not believe in restricting the right to bear arms based on that specific issue. I just think it's wrong. Anyways, I'm done rambling, Chris. I'm gonna throw it to you. I know.
No, fair enough, Kevin, and that was great. I will say this: my whole concern with this idea is it adds like an extra stigma to mental illness to a certain degree, because I'm sure Ben Shapiro would also agree with you and I that being transgender is a mental illness. So he's sticking that extra stigma on there anyway. And like I said to you, obviously, guys, we discussed the show before we actually do them. So, like I was saying to Kevin in a private phone conversation, I was just like, the vast majority of mental illnesses, and I'm talking like a huge, gigantic, high majority, do not make a person violent necessarily. I mean, they might be violent, but the mental illness in and of itself doesn't necessarily cause that. They just might be shit people, But the thing is so if somebody has some sort of mental illness, and I really can't think of anything off the top of my head, I mean, maybe some sort of severe, you know, like schizophrenia along the lines of like some sort of personality disorder and shit like that too. Okay, maybe that's something. But I don't think that the vast majority of transgender people, even though it is a mental illness, are necessarily violent. There are a lot who are, and we've seen well documented cases of that. But we are talking about the difference between gender dysphoria, which is, at least in my mind, a fairly benign mental illness that only affects the person, and the society needs to do a better job of supporting them as opposed to just giving in to the mental illness. Because that's what we're doing right now. We're just giving in to the mental illness. Mm. But then there's also things like autogynephilia and stuff like that. That's a little bit of a different story. Now, those people, yeah, I think they might be dangerous, but that's also not like actually a diagnosable thing. It's just something that's kind of out there, that people that has been brought up in scientific literature before, but hasn't necessarily gained the same type of traction. But no, I mean, it's kind of funny because it is like the Pam Bondi thing. It's like, yeah, I'm fine with all these freedoms as long as it's the people I like. That's what we're hearing here.
That is what we're hearing here. And I want to go to the comments quick, Chris, if you don't mind, because you were talking about an example. Perillo This is what he stated. I've dealt with severe depression and, as I recently found it, ADHD my whole life. Are my most sacred rights to be stripped, even though I've still managed my life well? Now, the reason why this comment, Perla, why it did hit home for me is, my husband knew a woman many years ago who was she had an ex who was extremely abusive. Like, this man beat her, was incredibly violent towards her, threatened to kill her. Obviously, restraining orders. What's she going to do if he shows up? Throw the restraining order at him, a piece of damn paper? She wanted a gun to protect herself, right? A handgun. She
Mm.
applied to get the appropriate permit and everything, but it was held up. And I believe that the last time my husband has since lost touch with this woman, but the last time he was in touch with her, she had actually not been approved and was fighting to get approved. And what was holding it up was she had a diagnosis of ADHD in her past. So the only thing now, again, her husband beat her. Her ex, I forget if it was ex-boyfriend, ex-husband, either way, her ex beat her, just was violent as all heck, threatened her. Court documents reflected this. All this. He was a clear threat to her life. But it was her ADHD was what meant she couldn't defend that life. That's insane. That is absolutely insane. That something
Yeah,
like that
and
would happen to
I
her.
mean, I have to go back to what I said. It's like I mean, I haven't seen any, you know, strong evidence, with the exception of maybe a few little things. But I mean, anything that strongly suggests to me, because Ben didn't talk about just transgenderism, because remember, transgenderism is way broader than gender dysphoria, because the transgender proponents will tell us you don't have to have gender dysphoria in order to be transgender.
Yep. Very true.
So so, so Ben is specifically picking on a group of people who may or may not be transgender, by the way, because there are people who suffer from gender dysphoria and never go through the process of transition. They just don't want to. Or they might start it, but they'll back out, because they realize there's something wrong about it. And so, just gender dysphoria specifically, I have not seen anything really that suggests that someone with gender dysphoria is more likely to commit a crime, especially a violent crime. And if anything, not only the people with gender dysphoria, but all people with mental illness, and I have seen the stats on this, all people with mental illness are far more likely to be the victims of violent crime
Hmm.
than actually perpetrate it.
And like I said, I think that we actually, so first of all, I think the left, I think also what hurts this, Chris, is we have gotten to this thing where um I actually think that a lot of people have mental issues that make everyone to a degree unique in one way or another, a little bit off, right? However, the left wants to make a pride flag out of each one, right? And the right sometimes either wants to attack it or pretend it's not real. However, I believe that everyone has their own quirks to varying degrees. So the question is, where do we draw that line, and how do we apply that? Like I mentioned, eating disorders earlier, right? I've known a lot of guys actually, especially during my time when I was going to the gym more regularly. Need to get back to that. But when I was going to the gym more regularly, I knew a lot of guys that were the most fit guys I had ever seen. They weren't happy. I am convinced that a number of them had a mental illness, had a little bit of a problem, because they could not look in that mirror and see the perfectly healthy and fit man that stood before them. They could
Right.
not see that as a there are people who get a lot of plastic surgery because they just can't see themselves as good enough, right? That obviously was getting into dysphoria, such as that overlaps to trans. But we have women who they're getting their boob. So that's another thing. A woman thinks that she's imperfect, so she gets a boob job. Do we want to broaden that enough to where, well, she has a dysphoric condition because she sees herself as not perfect enough because her boobs aren't the way they should be, so she gets a boob job? Should she then not own a gun because clearly she's not mentally confident enough to just be fine with her body? I mean, where does this end? So yes, I stand firmly against Ben Shapiro's BS here because it's dangerous rhetoric and it will end up harming all Americans. Left, right, center, it doesn't matter. And it sickens me that Ben Shapiro spews this idiocy and calls himself a patriot and a lover of freedom. Ben Shapiro, get effed in that regard because you have lost the page, all right? You've lost the whole damn book if that's where you're going. Sorry.
Well, what is good for me is good for me. What is good for you is also has to be good for me. That is the way Ben Shapiro and Pam Bondi and the other people that even Elena said when she was saying, I know some of the people that you speak of. I mean, I know exactly she knows what I'm talking about. We all know what I'm talking about. It's those types on the right. They're authoritarian, and they only believe in the American dream, and they only believe in freedom insofar as much as it benefits them. If it benefits anyone else, fuck it all.
Sorry, Perillo made a post that was kind of amusing.
Yeah. I saw that. But just to finish up my thought there. Yeah, I mean, these are like some of the biggest freaking hypocrites ever. And I mean, Ben Shapiro is such a freaking joke anyway. I mean, I can't stand that dude.
Right. So, Perillo said 100% of gun accidents are caused by dumbasses. Is the humble dumbass to be denied this constitutional right? Whatever would you do in that situation, Kev? So, all right. So, Perillo, I recently made a post on my social media about asking people what is a situation in their life, a moment that broke their heart when it comes to their faith in humanity, right? I remember working in retail in small appliances, and I was stacking curling irons. Now, clearly, that is not something I'm ever going to use. But right,
Why not, Kevin? Explain it to us. Why won't you use that?
I mean, I guess I put on the beard, but no. Anyway, I was stacking them, and I looked at the back of the curling iron at the warning. Do you know what that damn warning read on the back of the curling irons? It read, for external use only. What dumb... All right, okay. Now, I'm sorry. Something tells me that whoever is responsible for why that label had to be on there, why that warning, something tells me that they are still, though, permitted to own a gun. I mean... I'm sorry.
I mean, honestly, when it gets down to it, though, I mean, I agree with this. So it's like it's true. 100% of gun accidents are usually caused by dumbasses. But you know what? I don't necessarily want to take the guns away from the dumbasses either, because the thing is, I'm logically consistent. I am a person who believes in freedom, and I am a part of freedom, guys, whether you like it or not, is that people are going to make mistakes, and some of those mistakes are going to be so fucking dumb they'll die. That's freedom, and absolutely. I want it.
And speaking of dumbasses, let's just talk about even sweet people that are mentally kind of like, bless your heart. Which, speaking of that specifically, you've probably heard the saying, it's a good thing you're beautiful, right? I actually had a friend that when we were at a table, a group of us were talking about that, and we mentioned that as one of the ways to insult someone. Oh, it's a good thing you're pretty. This person said, oh my goodness, I'm like, what? This person said, I've had people say that to me many times in my life. And we were like, oh, darling. And it's...
Yeah.
So the thing is, this person... So, again, though, where do we draw this line? I mean, is it just mental illness? Is it simple people that or may seem simple, people that have duh moments? Because I'm like, do we base it on intelligence? Because I know some intelligent people who are woohoo, very highly intelligent people who are off. So where do we draw this line when it comes to that? That's why I stand firmly by punishing people for the crimes that they commit. Not. That's what I believe in. That's what I
There you
believe in.
go.
If we truly feel that if someone is too dangerous, too mentally ill to own a gun, then they shouldn't have access to the rest of society. They should be in an asylum or in a house, a group home, or someplace where they do not have access, or in jail, someplace where they do not have access to the rest of humanity. Because if they are truly that violent, they're going to find a way to commit an act of violence against people, gun or not. So that's where I stand on that personally.
Well, yeah, and the thing is the law can't, and maybe this is where the left gets itself into a little bit of trouble. Even the well-intentioned left, they try to control for stupidity, you know, and libertarians especially do not try to control for stupidity, like seatbelt laws. I don't believe in them. I don't. Not at all. The only exception, maybe, to seatbelt laws that I would say that I am in favor of is making sure that your kids are buckled up, because some people are also too stupid to take care of children, and I don't want the children
Yeah.
to be punished for
We
that.
agree that laws apply differently to minors than they do adults, of course. So
Exactly. But as far as adults are concerned, I really don't want the government trying to control for stupidity. It's like motorcycle helmet laws. I'm not in favor of those. You know, if you want to go out there and splatter your brains across the street when you're riding a motorcycle, that's your business. And what you have done is possibly given Kevin and I a great opportunity to do a Darwin Award episode next year.
So, Chris, I do want to say this much though. While I'm not in favor of that kind of policing by the government, I actually do agree. Seatbelts are actually a common conversation I've had. I do agree in education, right? Providing education that may deter people from being stupid. That I do agree. Like, for example, when I was in school, in high school, I think it was my freshman year. So before, it was freshman, sophomore, so around the time when kids are getting to that point where they can drive, they brought us all into the auditorium to have us watch a video on the dangers of driving drunk without a seatbelt. Like all the dangers, right, of different driving behaviors, right? And one of the pictures they showed, I will admit it impacted me to where I definitely wore a seatbelt. I tried to remember to always wear a seatbelt when I was in the back seat, because what it was is that they showed an accident where they believed that everyone would have survived it, probably, except the people in the back weren't wearing their seatbelts, right? The people in the front were. The airbags went off, and and obviously they went into that. Now these people in the front, especially, probably would have survived. But do you know what happened? The people in the back, since they weren't wearing the seatbelt, went forward, and in one of the person's skulls, they actually found teeth from the person in the back seat. Their teeth, and they showed a picture of this, and I was like, okay, yeah, that impacted me. One girl, I remember, she got let out of the auditorium crying. Like, she started crying in response to that, and I remember they let her out. Now, so that's what I support. If we want to deter a certain behavior, if we want to encourage people to use their seatbelts, then educate people at a young age when that will impact them. Don't have government coming down on people. I fully agree with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Educate them. I'm not against the education of people. In fact, I'm very much in favor of it. Unlike Donald Trump, I don't like dumb people. I will say that I do wear my seatbelt. When and you know why I wear my seatbelt? Because it's a smart thing to do.
Yeah.
You will have a greater chance of living if you're in a car accident. It's been proven a gazillion times over. If I ride, I don't have a motorcycle, but even when I rode a bike, I still wore a helmet. You know, I know that those things are beneficial. But if somebody really wants to go out there and just say F it all and throw caution to the wind, that's their business. It's not my business to take care of them. It's not the government's business to take care of them. Let them be stupid.
And some people might say, well, what if my child is in that car? Once again, Chris and I support laws that require children to wear seatbelts, require
Right.
minors to wear seatbelts, right? So say your child is in the car with someone who's not wearing a seatbelt and the accident happens, your child survives, that stupid mother, they that drove didn't, right? Or whatever. At the end of the day, I just think the risk of letting the government, because the thing is, never really without a civil war have you ever seen in history where government has reduced itself in size and in reach. Where do you see that, right? The only time
Right.
you see that get resolved in any culture is when there's some kind of civil uprising, some kind of huge shift that then the government's reach will shift. You don't really see a government get its claws into everything and say, you know what, I'm going to take at least one claw out. You don't see that in government, really. Let's be honest.
Right. Well, and really, when it gets down to it, I mean, my thing is like, if you're gonna hurt yourself, I don't really give a damn what you do.
Yeah, and this
But
topic,
if you're gonna hurt other people or children, then I do care what you're gonna do. That is
yep,
the end of my libertarianism right
yep.
there.
And
So there you go.
A Perillo, just to put this simply in regards to seatbelts, wear your wear your seatbelt, or you're gonna take a bite out of your homie's head. Okay, there we go. Oh wait, no, it's not. And Vinny is also encouraging us to wear seatbelts. So here's the thing. I think we're gonna touch on this in the future again. Because when it comes to the Second Amendment, there's a lot of areas where Chris and I agree that people on the right are not as pro Second Amendment as they say they are. Many, and we're going to discuss that further in the future. But now we're going to move from enough from one trans focus issue to another, and that is United States v. Is that Scrimetti? I feel like I always butcher that.
It's Scrimetti. Yeah, it's
Scrimetti.
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 Yeah,
All
I
right.
actually
So,
had a little tiny part in this.
which Chris is going to talk about in a moment. So I'm just going to read what the Supreme Court ruling, what it entails, what it involves. So the United States v. Scrimetti is a United States Supreme Court case, which held that a Tennessee state law banning puberty blockers and hormone therapy for the treatment of gender dysphoria in minors did not violate the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment to the United States Constitution. So to clarify, that means that a Tennessee law that said, no, you cannot, drug your minors in regards to transitioning them, no, that's that law that restricts that is constitutional. It is.
Right.
It's not against the Constitution to say no, you can't drug minors. And this case was argued in December of 2024 and decided in June of 2025. Chris
Right.
and I actually agree that this is one of those moments of 2025 that will resonate as well. But I'm gonna let Chris take this one since he actually has been engaged in regards to this case.
Yes, yes. I actually, crazy. I'm actually trying to see if this will, during the middle of this, allow me to upload what I was hoping to actually do at the last minute. Give me a second, guys, here. Um, it was just kind of a last minute thing that I thought of.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not going to let me do it while we're actually broadcasting. But the main thing is so I had been involved in Tennessee over this case, also a drag bill that they were doing there. And of course, I was in favor of what Tennessee was trying to do in order to, prevent children from receiving so-called gender-affirming care. And then, I was asked to go to Washington, D.C. and the U.S. Supreme Court. And while I was there, I delivered my thoughts on this, obviously stating that I, thought that, children should not be receiving this gender affirming care. Um, the and thanks to Jamie Reed, by the way, for inviting me. And for those of you who don't know her, just Google Jamie Reed. You will be amazed at the stuff that she's done. But anyway, it was great because now states can decide for themselves whether or not this type of care is appropriate for kids. And while I was there making that speech, I made it very well known that I wanted to go beyond what the Supreme Court was saying. Meaning, I wanted a blanket movement to make this illegal within the federal government. Because like I said, I mean, I honestly do think that some people are just honestly too stupid to, take care of their children. I mean, we've seen the videos of the guy, it's like, I have 2 or 3 trans children. It's like, if you've got that many, you've got a problem. And anyway, so I made it clear that I supported Marjorie Taylor Greene's legislation, the Protect Children's Innocence Act, which would actually ban this across the United States. Mm-hmm. So for those of you who don't know, related to this and what I did at the U.S. Supreme Court, now it has passed the House to protect children and is going to the Senate to further protect children, and Donald Trump has promised to sign this legislation if it gets passed. So,
and only 2 Democrats voted to protect children, by the way.
Right. Yeah, well, I mean, there's nothing that's going to change their minds. I mean, I have dealt with it. It doesn't matter what you say, what evidence you bring to them, they'll find some sort of hole in it or whatever the case may be, even though, as we know, there's plenty of problems with the so-called pro-trans.
Or they'll want to put a hole in it and transition it. But,
right. Yeah, right. No shit. So, yeah, I mean, long story short, this is great. This made sure that states like Tennessee and Missouri and others were able to protect their children from radical gender ideology. And this is wonderful because there are parents that buy into this stuff and push it on their kids. And I have said before, it's like, I am aware of a child who is 6 years old in a Kansas City area school who's being socially transitioned by their parents. I'm sorry, you cannot convince me that a 6-year-old boy is asking to be a girl in a sincere sense. So we need these types of protections. We need to protect children from parents like these. So, so I'm glad that the Supreme Court case happened. That was a major victory. But if we can get the Protect Children's Innocence Act passed, that was introduced in the House by Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, we'll be golden. And then I really probably won't have a whole lot to say about any of the transgender crap other than what adults want to do as far as like being in women's sports and stuff like that. But otherwise, I don't really give a crap.
Yeah. And I think this will resonate because I think we're gonna see those who want to transition children, those who target children. I think they're gonna try different angles to attack laws like what was in Tennessee. This because here's the thing, people I don't think they realize, right, is when the Supreme Court makes a ruling, if they make a rule, say the case comes under, I don't know, freedom of, specifically freedom of speech and expression, right? Well, there's other ways to come at that case as well, right? To get it overturned or to, whatever it may be. So I think we're going to see, people come at this issue from a different, and how insane the left is. And I kind of, for entertainment purposes, wouldn't mind seeing this. Could you imagine, Chris, since they like to try to bend things, that could you imagine seeing someone trying to push the transitioning of their child as a freedom of religious expression? I could see that. I could see
Mhm.
that. I could absolutely see that. I think that we are going to see the left get a bit more creative in how it tries to go against laws that are designed to protect children. I think we're going to see
Oh
that
yeah,
happen.
well the ACLU sued the state of Missouri for its ban on gender affirming, so-called gender affirming care for children, and they lost twice. They sued in Missouri courts, and what their claim is that somehow Missouri had some sort of extra legal protection to protect anyone to be transgender or whatever, regardless of age. And Missouri courts were kind of like, where the hell do you see that? you know? And they decided against him first. They appealed. They appealed it all the way up to the Missouri Supreme Court, and they lost. Because they're, I mean, I just can't really, I mean, there's a lot of constitutional decisions that are a little bit of a stretch, and that sometimes concerns me, but, I can kind of get where they're going with it. But the right to be mentally ill, or as the left would put it, to, have a health condition, and, uh, and then have it pushed upon children and stuff like that, like that's somehow some sort of constitutional right.
Hmm.
You just can't make me see the stretch there. I mean, I'm
Absolutely.
sorry. I don't think that you have any constitutional right to push this on children.
Yeah.
And I quite frankly think that you really don't have much constitutional right to even do this as an adult. But
Hmm.
since I don't really give a flying flip about adults unless they're hurting someone else, fine.
Yeah. So we are going to move along, but before we do that, I do want to reference one comment because it's about a topic that I think Chris and I will definitely cover in the future. It does touch on it. A. Perillo says in the comments, there's a deeper issue of the medical fields being completely overrun by hardcore liberal ideology. It's very difficult to argue when they have science on their side, even if it's tainted research. Now, in this, we have seen this before, right? Like we've seen stories of like a father. I remember there was a story that went viral of a father saying that he took his son to a doctor, and the doctor asked his son, what sex do you identify as? Do you identify as a boy or a girl?" And his son is like a 6 year. This is a 6 year old little boy, and a man of science, is saying to this 6 year old, "Are you a boy or a girl? Get the f out of here." So Perillo made a very good point there with this comment, is that we do have to address the absolute insanity that has infected the medical community and the science.
Right.
Absolutely.
Well, no, no. I mean, I 100% agree with that. I mean, that's why I mean, it's kind of fun. I mean, people on the left can sit there and poke as many holes as they really want to in anything, but honestly, no matter what evidence they come up with that is pro-trans, I'm just not gonna buy it. I'm just not. You know.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I mean, go to hell with that shit. I mean, especially when you're talking about a 5 or 6 year old or something like that. Seriously, fuck you. You know,
Absolutely. So we recently, Chris and I, we touched on two topics, right? Freedom of speech, hate speech, and the Second Amendment, where the right has definitely gone off the rails. Um, I now we're going to focus on two elections that show just how further nutters the left has gone. Obviously, we have the election of Zoran Mamdani as mayor of New York City. I loved this meme, by the way. I had to put it up here. Escape from New York, because I am a New Yorker, as many of you are aware. I do not live in New York City. However, once a cancer cell pops up in New York City, it tends to spread, unfortunately. Um, but so here's the thing, though. For me, what Mamdani getting elected really reflected was how the middle the middle of the Democrats, right? The moderate Democrats, how much they effed up. Uh, I'm sorry. Cuomo was a horrible candidate to put forward. All right, for New York City mayor to try, like, you weren't going to get a number of Democrats to vote for him. That's for sure. Even moderate. We are talking about the man that, for a lot of people, he forced them to have their loved ones die alone. This man, whenever he was criticized about why people were leaving New York, he's like, oh, it's just the weather. Don't get me wrong, New York weather is effed up and it changes every 5 minutes, but I'm sorry. So you're going to put Andrew Cuomo, a man that many Democrats and Republicans can't stand, in New York City, right? So first of all, so I think it was bad on the part of Democrats who didn't want Mamdani to win. The fact that they thought Andrew Cuomo was the one for like a primary with that. Then also though, we have had a lot of moderates and Republicans leave New York City, leaving New York State altogether. So I think these things combined helped push Mamdani over the edge. I don't think it was this resounding victory for leftists as much as they think it is. However, I do think it's reflective of where New York City politics are, especially among Democrats. And I mean, it's still not good for New York City. It's not good for New York State. It's ultimately not good for America. But I don't think it was this earth shattering result that so many people claim that it is. I just think a number of things came together just right for Mamdani and his insanity to be able to clinch it. I think under different circumstances that didn't involve Andrew Cuomo, especially, I don't think he would have even won the primary. But that's just my perspective as a New Yorker. I don't know. So yes, do I think this is a relevant moment for 2025? Absolutely. But I think it's more of a relevant and defining moment for the Democrat Party in New York State, specifically New York City, than it is this amazing defining moment that will resonate for 1,000 years to come. That's just my perspective. Chris, I'll throw it to you quick.
Yeah, I really don't have a whole lot to say about it. I mean, I think it was significant, but yeah, I was to a certain degree glad to see that it happened, but I wanted to see him be the true democratic socialist that he claimed to be. And from what I'm seeing, he's already kind of breaking with that just a little bit. And, but cool, whatever. I wanted to see him do that because I wanted to see the country, see the city fall to fucking pieces. You know, when he got his claws into it. I don't, I mean, I don't know how serious he was about being a democratic socialist, though. I mean, that's the thing. Now, Vinny says something that I thought was kind of funny. It's like, guys, I'm hella confused about Trump vibing with Mamdani. And that's going to continue on my the next thing that I was going to say. So, yeah, Mamdani, obvious piece of crap. But the thing is, it's like, I do wonder if he's quite as socialist as they thought. But we'll see. And if he is truly as socialist as we thought, then yeah, he'll run the city into the ground and the whole country will get to see it. But the thing with Trump vibing with Mamdani, I do vaguely remember reading something about this, like Donald Trump said something good about Mamdani. I mean, the thing that you have to understand, guys, is that even the insinuation that somebody is going to suck Trump's dick, Trump suddenly becomes their best friend. I mean, his depth of values is about this deep. So, you know, there you go.
Here's the thing. Trump is, and this is the thing. Again, I'm clarifying. I would vote for Trump again over Harris, over Biden. No problem with that, right? But Trump is in some ways a child in the regards to that. Children tend to have this mentality that they like those who like them. So if you're kind to a child and agree with them 100% on their desires, they love you. You know, you're their best friend. But if you challenge their demands and what they want, then that's, they're going to respond a certain way. In regards to Mamdani specifically, oh God, I wish I had brought up this clip. I didn't think to, but Chris, we're going to play it in the future. I actually don't think that they were vibing as much as people think, because Mamdani's standing there like a little boy, and there's that whole point where Trump, where
I remember that.
yeah, right.
I know what you're talking about now.
Like, Mamdani, do you still think Trump is this racist monster? And Trump's like, of course, never mind. He patted him like a little boy. I don't think they were vibing as much as a lot of people say they were. And we're going to play that clip in the future just because, I'm sorry, I do not. And Trump does that a lot. Trump has this way of just smiling with someone and they smile as well, as he just destroys them or insults them in that way of funny enough, of bless your heart, it's a good thing you're pretty. He has that way of engaging with people in the moment with a smile and being chummy, but not being as vibing as you think. It makes me think of one thing my mother once said, and this is one of my favorite interactions I ever saw my mother have, and yes, she could have these moments, where someone asked my mother how an outfit looked on them. And do you know what my mother said very politely? I'm sure that outfit looks good on some people. Now that was one of my... So I don't think that, right? She said it very politely. She didn't say anything vicious, right? I think what people were expecting was that Trump and Mamdani being in the same room meant there was going to be blood, teeth, biting, claws. Trump's tie was going to be over there. Mamdani's, I don't know, he was just going to be knocked out over there. People, come on now. That's not how this is going to go. It's never how it's going to go. I just think that actually they weren't vibing as much as everyone says.
Well, keep in mind, though, Kevin, here's one thing to keep in mind. If Trump is truly irritated with someone, Trump shows it. Okay? He does. He's not able to cover it up. I have never, ever seen him able to really, truly cover it up if he's truly irritated with someone. I mean, look at any of his press conferences. So I think what that means is Trump is not the... I'm not saying that they were vibing to the point that they were like best buddies or anything like that. Yeah. But I mean, again, Trump is showing that his depth of values is about that deep. And, because as long as somebody compliments him, he'll be fine. So what did he do? He let up the pressure off of Mamdani, and he has done that 100% because he got the promise of fellatio.
Yeah, which also, I'm going to point out one other thing. Trump being nice to Mamdani, eventually, visually wise, then pressures Mamdani to at least be somewhat respectful towards Trump. And I want to reference Vinny's comment here. He says the radical left in New York was ready to turn against Mamdani when Mamdani had this meeting with Trump. Now, think about this for a moment. It actually benefits Trump to be nice, respectful with Mamdani, because by comparison then, Mamdani generally feels pressure to be at least somewhat respectful back, which hurts Mamdani with the far left base that he got elected by. So I actually think that at the end of this day, this vibing hurts Mamdani more than it could ever hurt Trump. That's just
Oh
my
yeah,
perspective.
no, for sure it does. No, I agree with that. It probably does hurt Mamdani more. So from Mamdani's standpoint, it was kind of a stupid move, actually. But but I mean, if you guys can't tell, I'm just a smidgen disillusioned with Donald Trump right now, and so I'm not going to give him much credit for this. I guess I'm going to stay a little bit on the cynical side. Because I mean, in the beginning, I knew that he wasn't a real conservative. So I wasn't really surprised by that. I knew that he had nothing libertarian about him, so I was not surprised about that. But I also knew that he was a good actor and he liked to get shit done in his name. And I thought that he was going to at least use the conservative or libertarian path in order to get those things done. And I'm just not sure that I'm seeing that as much anymore. But that's just my little opinion. I don't want to go down the rabbit hole. I know we've got other stuff to get to.
I know, and we will, by the way, folks, because I know I am coming across more vibing. Oh, speaking of vibing with Trump. I have my criticisms of Trump, but here's the thing: why I still voted for him is because the one thing I know I can trust Trump to be Trump. I know the nature of the beast, and he's a fellow New Yorker. There's so much that Trump has said and done where I've had friends from other states especially be like, "Oh my goodness, dear goodness, and I just responded, "That's a New Yorker," and it's just been like, I'm like,
Yeah.
come on now. So I think there's a bit of that. Is some of the stuff is the fact that when Trump speaks a certain way or says a certain thing or does that, I'm like, okay, that's a New Yorker, especially someone from New York City. That attitude.
Yeah,
I'm accustomed
don't
to
let Kevin fool you guys too much because I've been to New York twice,
it.
and I ran into more rude people in Mississippi than I did there. So
That was
I
funny, by the
mean,
way.
seriously, no, New York is actually not all that
The
bad.
only thing that traumatized Chris about New York, well, specifically New York City, was the price of alcohol. But
Yes, absolutely. All right, so on to the next
two drinks
one.
coming to $75. I'll never forget that price. Two drinks came
Guys, seriously, two
for
freaking oh my god,
$75.
they were Jack and Cokes. Two freaking Jack and Cokes were $75 in New York City when I was there, and of course, stupid ass me, I paid it. Anyway, all right, love New York though. Still, despite the high alcohol prices. Okay, so you want to move on to the next one, Kevin?
Are we reconnected?
Oh, I think we are now. Yeah, I can
Okay,
hear you
there we
just
go.
fine. Yeah, it dropped out. Yeah, it dropped out for a second. Do you want to move on to the next one now?
Yeah, so folks, don't worry, we're going to cover Trump much more, but we're moving on from Mamdani, this election, to Jay Jones, because Jay Jones is one I take so much more seriously, just because here with Jay Jones, who, by the way, for those who don't know, Democrat Jay Jones on seats Virginia GOP Attorney General Jason, it was Mayers, right? Despite text scandal. Now, Jay Jones texted, and we have that on display here, although I wish it was a little bit bigger for y'all. He texted about wishing children dead. He wished children dead. All right. And this broke my heart. This broke my heart because this is where it wasn't just a Democrat politician, because I didn't figure that the Democrat politicians would come out and stand against him. Democrats are Democrats this day and age in general. A lot of them, just saying. I think, yeah, they basically none of them would condemn Jay Jones wishing death on children. I didn't expect any of the politicians to, but what broke my heart is Democrat voters did that. That means that Virginia, the state of Virginia, the Democrats have gotten so far to where a man can wish death on children and those voters will still vote for that man. That broke my heart. And that is why, for me, this is one of the most defining moments of 2025, is because here we have the people of a state, voting a man into office knowing that he wishes death on children. I was disgusted to my core. I still feel heartbroken, and I fear for the future, especially where Democrats are in power. It terrifies me. I'm going to throw that to you, Chris.
Well, I mean, it kind of goes along with some of the stuff that we've seen the left say outwardly, as far as, being fine with, like, wishing death upon people and stuff like that. So, I mean, I really don't have a lot to say about this, because honestly, it just all speaks for itself. It's like, I mean, I don't care if the guy was a Republican. If he said some shit like this, especially about kids, there's no way in hell I'd vote for him. I'd cross the aisle and vote for the Democrat. Because I had to assume that they've got to be better than someone who's wishing kids to be dead. So yeah, I don't have a lot to say about it. I mean, to me, for me, it's just almost self-explanatory.
One second, I'm just responding here. Oh well, Perillo is about to leave us. Although we are almost done with this stream. We're going to touch on one thing real quick, and then we're going to be done, folks.
Yeah, let's just go ahead and switch to that, because we didn't really have a lot to say about the last one.
We don't have a lot to say right now also about this, because this is a developing story. I have a lot to say about what has come out so far, but we'll cover this more in the future, folks. For those of you who are aware, who are under a rock, Nick Shirley is a basically he's a reporter. He's his own independent journalist, right? He went to Minnesota and investigated the child daycares, and I believe some healthcare providers, and found that many of these child daycares did not have a single child. He went to one where he tried to enroll his son Joey. He was told no. He has since been harassed by like Antifa and all this. But what's interesting, and this man should get protection. What's interesting is how Tim Walz is just going off the rails. He is not knowing what to do. The reason I want to include this is a few reasons. First of all, we are going to follow up with this later, people. So please keep an eye out for that episode, because I feel like we have not even come close to all the details that are involved, all the insanity that is involved in this fraud in Minnesota. But I do think that this kid right here, from what I've been watching, because I've been catching up on his content, by the way, I think this kid here, we were talking earlier about how no one can replace Charlie Kirk, but someone can certainly be a reflection of some of his ideology, of some of his goals. I don't know. This kid, this young man, he is well spoken. I think he expresses his views overall very well. I think he investigates properly. He doesn't, he does the work. He literally does the work on the ground. Like I said, I'm not saying 100%, but from what I'm seeing so far, I think this kid right here, this young man, he's got a future ahead of him. So that's where I'll leave that on my end.
Oh, right now, I mean, as far as what I can see, is Tim Walz looks like a politician in serious cover your ass mode.
Yeah.
So so that's pretty much all I have to say about that.
One thing though, and last thing on this for me though, did you see that video? I'm waiting to see, but other people have been doing it. One of the daycare centers, the number on Google, when you call the number, do you know who you get when you call that number?
Someone in Somalia?
You get the governor's office.
Oh, okay.
When you
Oh, that's
call one, now I don't
interesting.
know if someone, because I think you can edit the Google stuff. I don't know, but regardless, if you go to that specific daycare, and we'll play that video at some point in the future, you go to their Google, where they are on Google, and you dial the number, you'd get Tim Walls' office, and people have been confirming this. But with that though, that'll be more to discuss in the future. I do want us to mention one thing. I will be taking a break in January from social media, from the stream and stuff. Every January, I do a dry January. In this case, for this year, I'm also doing a bit of a dry in regards to social media. You might see me active here and there, but not a lot. I might be a guest on some other people's shows, but you won't see me here until February. I'm looking forward to it. We plan to return with a bang. We're going to have a whole new focus. We're going to have guests lined up. And we really hope to see you in the comments in February. I know I do. So much love for you all. I'm going to say Happy New Year's right now. And then I'm going to throw it to Chris.
Guys, I do have some health issues going on, and I'm going to give everyone an update on my campaign here within the next few days. So that is something that I'll be taking care of. I'm not saying anything one way or another, but just know that I do have certain health issues going on right now that may affect that. But yeah, really appreciate you. I may come on and do some solo podcasts. If I feel like it. If otherwise, might just go ahead and return in February with Kevin. I am doing another podcast, and that comes out on a weekly basis. And it's called Political Malpractice. That's kind of an interesting one, guys, because we actually have left and right opinions on that particular podcast. So, I think it's a good compliment to what we're doing here between Kevin and I. And I think there's going to be maybe a little bit of overlap. We'll have some of the people on from Political Malpractice, and maybe some of the people on from Casey Reacts and that sort of thing. So hopefully we'll be able to do that as well. So I plan on remaining relatively active on social media and podcasts throughout the month of January. So unfortunately for you guys, you'll continue seeing my damn face.
Absolutely. Oh, we love it, Chris. It's gonna be great. Anyways, guys, thank you for watching this special episode. We wrap up of 2025. We look forward to seeing you in the new year. Happy New Year's, everyone. Stay safe out there. Don't be stupid. And of course, God bless. Again, see y'all in the new year.
Take care, guys. Happy New Year.
All right, everyone, and we are live